Well, hello friends, this is Tommy Oakes, and this is the Story Break. You need to know that the story I want to tell you in this session is the fourth part of a four-part story. You ought to go listen to parts 1, 2, 3. It'll help you enjoy the fourth part a little better, I believe. The first installment is called The Three Sillies. The second one is called The Woman and Her Cow, and the third one is called Putting Your Pants On. These stories have to do with a young man who decided that he was not going to marry a young girl unless he could find three people who were sillier than that young girl and her mom and dad. Well, he did find two sillier, and you can find out about them in those second and third stories. Now, here's the fourth one. Well, that young man went walking down the road, and he walked on that road all day long that day. Didn't see a soul. And he began to think, well, I don't guess I'm ever going to find three silly people. I found two, but I don't know that I'll find a third one. Well, as the sun was going down, he saw some lights up ahead, and he figured rightly that that was a town. So he said, well, I'll go in that town and spend the night. Well, as he got outside that town, he heard a ruckus, and he looked over to the side. There was a pond, and there was a bunch of people over there. They had rakes and brooms and buckets, and they were wading in that pond. Those people with the brooms were sweeping in the water. The people with the rakes were raking in the water. The people with the buckets were scooping in the water. He went up there and said, what on earth are you doing? They said, it should be obvious to you, young man. Look there in the pond. He looked in the pond, and he said, what is it? They said, the moon has gotten caught in our pond. And he looked, and sure enough, there was a big reflection of the moon. He said, what are y'all talking about? Look up in the sky. They said, we don't have time to look up in the sky. We're trying to get the moon and put it back where it belongs. He said, the moon is not in your pond. It's in the sky. They said, young man, if you aren't going to help, just get on out of here, or we're going to throw you in the pond and let you see if you can't swim and get that moon. So they kept sweeping and raking and trying to dip that moon out of their pond. Well, that young man walked on, just laughing and laughing. And he said, you know what? I guess the world just has a lot of silly people in it. And I found more than three. So since I was attracted to that young girl, even though she and her mom and dad are silly, I probably think I'll go back and marry her. And that's what he did. He went back and married that girl. And if they didn't live happily ever after, it wasn't my fault or your fault. It may have been the fault of that young man that he just could not tolerate enough silliness. And that's the end of that story break. Thank you for coming. See you next time.